Hello everybody, Maven here, and I'm sure you all have already seen that big news article Bungie just put out about all the PvP changes coming to episode Heresy on February 7th. And in that article, they revealed all of the new weapons and most of their perk rolls that are going to be dropping from our PvP modes, that being Comp, Quick Play, Trials, and Iron Banner. And before starting this video, I was considering just doing like a 15-minute rant video going over all of the changes in this article, but I figured everybody else was doing that already, and a lot of people have already done that, so I decided to do something more in line with my channel. So I decided I'm going to share my thoughts on all of the god rolls for the brand new weapons. There's 7 in total. Some of them are brand new, and some of them are just reissued with brand new perk rolls. And as a bonus, I'll rant slightly about my thoughts on the PvP changes near the end of the video. So without further ado, I'll leave the link to the article down below in the description if you would like to check it out, and I will leave timestamps of all of the weapons we are going to go over if you wanted to skip around. So let's get to it. Hope you enjoy. This video is sponsored by Advanced GG, the only clinically proven gaming supplement shown to improve your gaming performance. Use code Maven at checkout for 10% off your order. Link down below. Thank you. Alright, so let's waste no time and jump right into our first weapon, which is the brand new Keen Thistle Aggressive Frame Solar Sniper Rifle that will be dropping from Trials along with an Adept variant. In the left column, it gets Snapshot Sights, Lone Wolf, Under Pressure, Incandescent, Envious Arsenal, Slick Draw, and Triple Tap, and in the right column, it gets Opening Shot, Closing Time, Discord, Bait and Switch, Moving Target, Vorpal Weapon, and 4th Time's a Charm. Now starting with PvP, I'm going to tell you right now with full confidence that this will be the greatest sniper rifle the Crucible has ever seen, like at a competitive level. It's gonna be that good. Now you might think I'm just exaggerating to kick off the video, but I'm not. I'm saying this with full 100% confidence. After the huge nerf to sniper rifle damage values in PvP last year, that, in my opinion, instantly made the 72 RPM aggressive frames the best snipers because they do the most body shot damage and make it for easier cleanups. And the best aggressive frame sniper, which actually just came out in episode Revenant recently, is the Valletta F, because it can roll with Snapshot Sights and Closing Time, making it the snappiest aggressive frame there ever was, to the point where it feels like an adaptive frame just with the damage of an aggressive frame. The Macabre from the last Halloween event can roll with Snapshot Closing Time as well as an aggressive frame, but it has lower base handling, and handling literally means everything on a PvP sniper rifle because it's the type of weapon where you will more often than not get a body shot with it, and you'll have to swap as quick as possible to get a cleanup. So with handling on the mind, that brings us to the new Keen Thistle, which can also roll Snapshot Closing Time as an aggressive frame, except the difference is that it's a Trials weapon. So we already know the base stats are about to be borked, and on top of that, it has an Adept. So you can put on Adept handling to give plus 10 handling as opposed to the new tactical mod, which only grants 6 handling, and furthermore, when you masterwork an Adept weapon, you get that free plus 3 in every single stat. So with everything combined, the handling is going to be through the roof, especially with enhanced Closing Time to bump that handling and accuracy even further. It's going to be the snappiest and smoothest aggressive frame sniper the game will ever see. All we gotta pray for is that it will have a decent reticle and 40 or less zoom. So I expect somewhat of a small Keen Thistle Rose meta coming up in the near future for sniper players out there, so be on the lookout for that. Now when it comes to PvE, outside of Triple Tap and 4th Time's a Charm, there's not really anything crazy. It has some interesting stuff, some cool combos, but nothing worth writing home about. Triple Tap 4th Times is one of the combos that seems mind-blowingly awesome when you think about it, but it doesn't really have much practical applications within the game. Aggressive frame snipers can hold a maximum of 5 ammo in the mag, and Triple Tap and 4th Times will just piggyback off each other, constantly extending your mag to the extreme. And this ammo comes from thin air, so it really helps your ammo economy tenfold and beyond. So I did the math, and there's a very high probability my math is wrong because I just calculated it once and didn't double check my work, so correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But with 5 in the mag and Triple Tap 4th Times continually piggybacking off each other, in theory, if you land all crits, you should be able to dump 19 shots in a single mag without reloading, 14 of which come from thin air. And if my math is correct, that's insane in theory. That's a lot of free ammo, but like I said, that's not really super applicable in most places in the game. If you're doing DPS against a precision-based boss, you're just going to use the Whisper of the Worm, and if you needed a special sniper for any reason, it'd be for burst, damage, and niche rotations, and you would use the Omniscient Eye. So when it comes to PvE, the Keen Thistle is more of a novelty item, but for Crucible, 100% meta, grab it ASAP. Now let's move on to the Exalted Truth Adaptive Hand Cannon from Trials. It's Void. It's getting reissued with some brand new perks. In the left column, it gets Slide Shot, Lone Wolf, Destabilizing Rounds, Moving Target, Zen Moment, Keep Away, and Withering Gaze. And in the right column, it gets Eye of the Storm, Opening Shot, Precision Instrument, Magnificent Howl, Redacted, One for All, and Repulsor Brace. Now, yes, some perks today will be redacted, but right now we're working with what we got, so results may vary once we actually have the information available to us. But anyways, starting off with PvP, there's one huge thing that I want to point out before even talking about any god rolls. And sadly, this one thing might heavily bring the weapon down, and I know Bungie is going to do it, and I know I'm going to be disappointed. So when it comes to PvP hand cannons, especially adaptive frames, for me personally, the most important perk by far, which isn't even really a perk, it's a part, is ricochet rounds. Now, Bungie has been doing this subtle thing over the years where they have realized mistakes they have made in the past and stopped making those mistakes over time, such as taking tap the trigger off of semi-auto weapons ever since incorporating the full auto setting, stuff like that. And one such thing Bungie started quote unquote correcting over the years is taking ricochet rounds off of adaptive hand cannons. The only good adaptive hand cannon, or rather lightweight, we have right now is the Rose with ricochet rounds. And ricochet rounds is partly why it's so good, because it provides such a girthy stat bonus on top of having those stock options already. And before the Rose, the last relevant hand cannon we had with ricochet rounds in an actual active PvP meta was the Palindrome, and that was over 3 years ago. The only hand cannons with ricochet rounds since then have been trash that Bungie knew was going to be trash. So that's why they don't put ricochet rounds on good hand cannons anymore. And we already learned that the Palindrome is coming back in Heresy, and if they take ricochet rounds off of it, I'm going to be really upset. And ricochet rounds has never even existed on the original Exalted Truth to begin with, so the odds they choose to stick with steady rounds and accurized rounds are extremely high, and it scares me. So while it has some insane perks, I fear its stats will suffer and it'll kick like a mule unless you sacrifice a ton of range. But anyways, that was a huge tangent, but I feel a relevant one. So when it comes to a PvP god roll, there's one perk that really stands out to me, and that's Withering Gaze. So in the Crucible, you're just gonna pre-aim with it for 1 second, someone pops out, you shoot them, and suddenly they're weakened, and it'll be super easy to clean up. And I'm curious that if you pair that along with Precision Instrument, if you'll be able to kill and crit body. The first body shot applies the weaken, the second crit and the third crit will have the boosted damage from weaken and also the boosted damage from Precision Instrument on top of that. And if that does pick up the kill, then this will be the most broken hand cannon of all time. And by the way, this is also the first ever 140 RPM hand cannon to get Precision Instrument. And with the right parts, along with Keep Away, you'll be able to get 100 range on this thing, and you tack on the extra damage from Precision Instrument, and that makes this the rangiest adaptive hand cannon of all time. And it's also the first adaptive frame to get Magnificent Howl, which I'm curious if that will also be able to pick up a 2-tap with Withering Gaze. It also has Slide Shot, which is the sole reason the Rose is the meta hand cannon right now, but this one is in a different slot, so that automatically makes this the best in slot. So there's just so much going for this thing. So this is one of those weapons where everyone will have a different god roll. That's either going to be Keep Away or Slide Shot paired with any number of things in the fourth column. So definitely farm for this thing and do not miss out. Now, as for PvE, again, it's that Withering Gaze I'm looking out for, guys. This is going to be absolutely insane for endgame like GMs. And since we currently don't have any hand cannon champion mods in Revenant, that means we're bound to have one in Heresy. So get ready, because this thing is going to be an absolute workhorse utility weapon for Grandmasters with that Withering Gaze, weakening and stunning all the champions. And then to pair along with that, you got Repulsor Brace, because everything you shoot will be weakened from Withering Gaze, so that will proc Repulsor Brace to give you an overshield. It's a neat little combo. And there's also that Precision Instrument for free damage and whatever redacted might be. So whether you're a PvE or PvP player, the Exalted Truth will 100% be worth going for. Now moving Moving on to our third and final Trials weapon, we have the reissued Inquisitor Arc Slug Shotgun. In the left column, it gets Envious Assassin, Lone Wolf, Offhand Strike, Loose Change, Perpetual Motion, Slide Shot, and Threat Detector. And in the right column, it gets Bait and Switch, Closing Time, Cascade Point, Fragile Focus, Jolting Feedback, Opening Shot, and Precision Instrument. Now let's not beat around the bush. We all know the Inquisitor is a stat monster through and through. With Closing Time, this thing is going to have maxed out handling easily. So we can just dump our parts and mods into range to max that out, and then we just run Lone Wolf to boost our aim assist. Now, remember what I just said about Bungie correcting their errors of the past slowly but surely over the years? Well, another one of these quote-unquote mistakes they used to make is they used to give slug shotguns really good base aim assists. Really, go see for yourself if you want. Check the API on old slugs. They had a base aim assist in the 50s to 60s, like well above average. Nowadays, slugs have aim assist in the 30s usually. So having Lone Wolf on the Inquisitor is just going to boost its aim assist back to the pre-nerf days. While having maxed out range and handling, this is literally as good as a slug can possibly get. This is it. This is the peak. It can't get any better. If you are a slug shotty user, then this thing is what you gotta make time to farm for. This is your new baby. This is your new side project. Now, when it comes to PvE, my initial instinct is to say not to bother chasing this thing. There's really only 3 reasons to use a shotty in PvE, and that's either 1, because it has Discord, 2, because it has 1-2 punch, or 3, because it's good for DPS rotations. And this shotty doesn't apply to those first 2, but it could possibly apply to that last one. With Envious Assassin to hold 18 in the mag and Bait and Switch for a 30% damage buff, this thing could output some pretty serious DPS, but if people are trying to speedrun Last Wish, they'll just hot swap. Hot swapping got disabled 3 years ago, but it's still possible, and people still do it in speedruns. But for the casual player, especially if your raid team wants you to be a tractor cannon user, then this thing could potentially pair well with that to output some solid DPS. It's pretty niche, but this is one of those roles that's nice to have in the vault just in case. Next up, we got our comp weapon for the season, which is the Redrix's Estoc. It's a PR-55 frame pulse rifle, aka a lightweight frame pulse rifle, aka just a copy paste of the BXR Battler, except in the kinetic slot, because it's a stasis weapon. In the left column, it gets Encore, Lone Wolf, Perpetual Motion, Zen Moment, Offhand Strike, Rhyme Stealer, and Demolitionist, and in the right column, it gets Desperate Measure, Sword Logic, Desperado, Head Seeker, Rapid Hit, Kill Clip, and Headstone. Now sure, I'm very hyped about the Keen Thistle and Exalted Truth, but nothing can begin to express how hyped I am for the Redrix's Estoc. Having a BXR 55 Battler in the kinetic slot is literally a dream come true. For those who haven't watched the video I just put out last week going over the new buffs to the lightweight frame pulse rifles, I said it there. The BXR Battler is my favorite lightweight pulse rifle, and it would definitely be my main Crucible primary the day we get a good rapid fire fusion in the kinetic slot. Because the reason that I can't use the Battler is because my main weapon in the Crucible is my Zealot's Reward, my baby. It's the best rapid fire fusion in the game, and it's a staple on my loadout, and I can't live without it. It is my crutch. So that means that I can't use the Battler since it's in the same slot. So I've been waiting for the day we get a good Zealot's Reward alternative in the kinetic slot, but I never once thought for a second about the possibility of getting a Battler in the kinetic slot. But it's actually happening, and I'm beyond hyped. I'm telling you right now, there's a 99% chance that this is my new main weapon. Redrix's Estoc with Zealot's Reward is, as far as I know, my main Crucible loadout for the foreseeable future. But anyways, let's talk about god rolls. Kill Clip all the way. I'm just gonna say it. Kill Clip is a beast of a perk. It's tried and true and always a top tier option on most, if not all, PvP primaries. But also don't count out Headstone for trials because it can block revives. You dump a large stasis crystal where you killed someone, then their res is buried in it, and the enemy team has to take the time to mag dump on that crystal to break it before they can go for a revive. You even got Head Seeker so you can kill in 1 less crit. You got options. It really depends on what you prefer. But for me, the clear winner is Kill Clip. And in that first slot, you have a multitude of good options to pair along with either of these perks. You got Encore for more range and stability, Lone Wolf for more aim assist, Perpetual Motion for more stability and handling, and Zen Moment for more stability and accuracy, and Demolitionist for more ability spam. The sky's the limit. It's a comp weapon, so you know the nature of comp weapons. They always have a handful of potential god rolls, and you really can't go wrong with any of them. Now, as for PvE, I would not recommend going over this thing unless you love dad rifles or you're an extremely casual player who likes to do easier content, in which case I'd recommend Demolitionist with Headstone for builds based around spamming Glacier Grenades, or even Renewal Grasp with Dusk Fields on Stasis Hunter. And for those thinking I might have glossed over it, no, I'm not a fan of Rhyme Stealer. I don't think that perk is very good. But now let's move on to the first of our 2 new Iron Banana weapons. We got the Warlord Spear Arc Trace Rifle. In the left column, it gets Dynamic Sway Reduction, Envious Assassin, Rewind Rounds, High Impact Reserves, Hip Fire Grip, and Loose Change. And in the right column, it gets Desperate Measures, Killing Tally, Target Lock 4 times the Charm, Redacted, and Redacted. We got a couple Redacteds here, so the thoughts of this one have the potential to change drastically, but with what we got, there's one PV perk that really stands out to me, and that's High Impact Reserves. Since you spawn in Crucible with only 50 ammo, you're pretty dang close to having High Impact Reserves active by default, in which case that's just going to up your TTK for free. Pair that along with something like Killing Tally, and your TTK can possibly be broken. I know Arcane Sword is going to cook with that. Your TTK with the Trace is already 0.73 at base, so I imagine that with this combo it'd be somewhere around 0.6 TTK. And if that's the case, then this thing could be pretty nuts, especially since you'll have the Skulking Wolf origin trait from that Iron Banner. And in the fourth column, you also have the option of 4th times a charm. And as you know, since traces are 1000 RPM, I'd say it's pretty easy to proc that in Crucible. So you can have a lot more ammo efficiency for your Trace Rifle and try to use it as a primary. Now, when it comes to PvE, I'm going to say that you might want to go with the Redacted perk. And why am I saying that when we don't even know what Redacted is? Well, it's an arc weapon, and if you look at all the perks that we're aware of, none of them are arc perks. There's no Volt Shot, there's no Jolting Feedback, which I'm surprised about that one. So whatever Redacted is, it's gonna be something that can apply a debuff such as Jolt or Blind. And how do I know that? Well, because in the third column we have a Loose Change, which buffs your reload speed by 50 when you apply an elemental debuff. So clearly one or both of those Redacted perks will be something that can apply an arc debuff. Aside from that though, Rewind Rounds plus Killing Tally looks appealing, as well as Rewind Rounds plus 4th times the Charm. And with Trace Rifles having over 100 in the mag, you're gonna get a boatload of mileage out of 4th times the Charm. So when paired with Rewind Rounds, in theory, if you landed all crits, there's a high chance you'll just have infinite mag size, along with a very generous ammo economy. And with the Cenotaph Mask, you'll guarantee to have infinite mag size, so this thing is definitely worth snagging for PvE, but for PvP it can be subjective since traces aren't the most popular weapon type. Now moving on to our second Iron Banana weapon, we got the Peacebond Stasis Adaptive 3 Burst Sidearm. It's back and reissued with some new perks. In the left column it gets Rangefinder, Subsistence, Zen Moment, Headstone, Lone Wolf, and Moving Target, and in the right column it gets Headseeker, Desperado, Rhyme Stealer, Desperate Measures, Demolitionist, and Kill Clip. Now you remember what I said when I first talked about the Redrix's Estoc? Well, you already know what I'm about to recommend. Kill Clip, baby. It's there, it's square, it's meta, it's always a top tier option, and that is the perk I would recommend going for. I've tried Seeker a few times on the Sununa and High Albedo. Not a fan. Kill Clip is just way more consistent and actually going to give you results. As for what to pair with that, same deal as the Redrix's Estoc. There's a huge multitude of solid PvP options to choose from. Rangefinder to help your accuracy and zoom so you can more easily fight from 18 meters and beyond. Zen Moment for stability and accuracy. Headstone to be annoying in trials, Lone Wolf for aim assist, and Moving Target for aim assist and strafe speed. Honestly, you can't go wrong with any of these as long as they're paired along with Kill Clip. Personally, I'd go for Rangefinder or Lone Wolf, but Headstone is also a very solid option if you like to play stasis builds because that crystal can proc Whisperer Shards to help you spam more nades. Now as for PvE, I would not recommend going for this thing. It won't be as easy to proc Headstone with a sidearm as it would be with something like a hand cannon or scout, and nothing else really calls out to me. This is definitely more of a PvP weapon with that Skulking Wolf origin trait. You can really be a menace with this thing. Now moving on to our final weapon of the day. This is going to be the seasonal crucible weapon from Quick Play, and that's the Joxer's Longsword Void Heavy Burst Pulse Rifle, which is the 4 burst. Editor's note, I had my frames confused. The heavy bursts are actually the 2 bursts. So take everything I say with a grain of salt, and technically most things I say could be adapted over from 4 bursts to 2 bursts, so it still makes sense. Just when you hear me talking about 2 burst kills, just adapt that over to 3 burst kills and it's still the same thing. But anyways, let's resume with the video. And since it's a playlist weapon, it has a lot of perks. In the left column, you got Closing Time, Demolitionist, Dragonfly, Killing Wind, Gutshot Straight, Lone Wolf, Pugilist, Enlightened Action, Rewind Rounds, Repulsor Brace, Shoot to Loot, and Strategist. And in the right column, it gets Adrenaline Junkie, Desperado, Desperate Measures, Destabilizing Rounds, Withering Gaze, Head Seeker, High Impact Reserves, Under Pressure, One for All, Swashbuckler, Redacted, and Zen Moment. Once again, it's a primary weapon with Withering Gaze, the first ever, which is crazy to me. In the Crucible, that's basically gonna work just like box breathing. So the PvP role that I'd recommend is really gonna sound like a PvE role, but hear me out. Withering Gaze with Repulsor Brace. You're gonna be laning with this thing from like 40 plus meters. You're gonna be hard scoping. It's a 4 burst, so this thing dumps a lot of shots. So when that first bullet hits them, the Withering Gaze procs and weakens them, then the rest of the 3 shots in that burst, along with the entire next burst, will have the boosted damage against them. That's plus 7.5% boosted damage for free, and that's gonna make it a heck of a lot easier to pick up that 2 burst. I wouldn't be surprised if you can even kill in 7 shots. And since they're gonna be weakened, you're gonna proc that Repulsor Brace and have an overshield ready for the next gunfight, and that sounds kinda good. I've always wanted to like the 4 burst pulses, but I never could because they just never pick up the 2 burst for me. They're just not forgiving. I've used the Disparity a lot. I have 400 kills in it. I use Rapid Hit and Kill Clip, and it feels like no matter if I hit all crits, the 2 burst just doesn't want to happen, and I never understood it. And that just made me lose all faith in 4 burst pulses. But now with this Withering Gaze, I have a feeling that the 2 burst is going to be a lot more common. That's just free damage straight up. And when it comes to PvE, Withering Gaze once again is still going to be the play. You can't go wrong with that utility to weaken champs and GMs. And you can pair that along with Rewind Rounds so you can mag dump into things and have better sustained DPS. And I think that this thing with Rewind Wither is just going to outclass the Elsie's rifle and become the new best in slot PvE Void Pulse. So if you're a GM player, definitely hop in the Crucible and grind this thing this season, since it's only going to cost 1 Crucible engram and 0 Glimmer to focus it. Just make sure to reset Shax 4 times before starting to focus anything, which will give you a higher chance to roll with 3 perks in each column. And that's going to do it for all 7 god rolls today. Did I miss anything? If I did, let me know in the comments and let me know which god rolls you're looking forward to the most. I'm honestly excited about every one of these, but the clear winner for me is that kinetic slot battler, which I can almost guarantee will be my new main Crucible weapon. I'm very much looking forward to that. Now, another editor's note. I did not expect another monster TWAB to be dropped on us today, and at the end of this TWAB, we have 4 more weapons revealed to us, but this video has been so long, so I'll give you my god roll opinions on these 4 weapons as well, but I won't explain, alright? So just keep that in mind. So Lotus-Eater, PvP god roll, don't bother, it's a rocket sidearm. PvE god roll, Feeding Frenzy, One for All. Although I'm curious what Redacted is, because, you know, this thing doesn't have the most exciting rolls in the world, so I'm expecting Redacted to be a banger. Next is the Palindrome, the most hyped up hand cannon of all time. We've waited years for its return. It gets some weird stuff like Mag Howl on an adaptive hand cannon, Master of Arms, the first time we've seen that on this archetype. It's got Explosive Payload, which is always a tried and true perk. It's got Elemental Capacitor for PvP, another plus 25 stability there. It's going to be really nice. But in all honesty, there's not any definitive god roll calling out to me here, so I really think we gotta wait to see what those 2 redacted perks are. I think those are going to be the make or break for this weapon. Next up, we got the Cynosure Strand Aggressive Rocket Launcher. Very, very unexciting. It does have Envious Arsenal, but no bait and switch. There's a redacted perk there. We really need to figure out what that is because it doesn't really have any other redeeming factors. Maybe Explosive Light, but I don't know. And finally, we have the Backfang Arc Rapid Fire Glaive from good old Gambit. And this one, I already see an amazing PvE god roll of Lead from Gold and Volt Shot, and I'm telling you right now, I'm bringing back my good old Trident Vice build for another video once I get my hands on this thing. And when it comes to Crucible, if the Greasy Luck doesn't see play, then this won't, and I don't understand why Rapid Fire Glaives aren't meta because they kill the quickest, but it does get Impulse Amplifier and Unstoppable Force, so I guess that's your god roll, and we still gotta find out what those redacted perks are. Now, enough breaking the fourth wall, let's resume the original video in 3, 2, 1, go. But before we wrap up the video, I wanted to go over a few little bonus things from the the article, like the armor sets and trials changes. Now for the armor sets, they seem to be returning back to the ancient Egyptian vibe, which is nice. Honestly, not too big a fan of these armor sets. The wings on the Warlock chest don't look as prominent as I'd like them to. They're kind of just little tucked away baby wings. Titan doesn't excite me, but I think the best of the bunch is the Hunter. I think the Hunter legs are pretty nice, and I do really love the look of that left Hunter arm, which is the right one from our perspective. And there has been this really annoying thing that Bungie has done countless times with Hunter armor sets over the years. And that, for some reason, is they make the arms unsymmetrical, and I have no idea why. And they do that to legs sometimes as well. It's my biggest pet peeve in the Destiny drip sphere. There's been so many awesome armor sets ruined by the fact that it wasn't symmetrical. And from the angle this picture is at, I cannot tell if that right arm, the one holding the weapon, is going to look the same as the left arm. If it does, then these could possibly be my new favorite arms if they shade well. Now I'm going to briefly share my thoughts on the trials changes, and I'll be quick about it because this video has been pretty long as it is. So I'm very hyped about the elephant in the room. That elephant being the fact that the ideology of flawless has kind of been eradicated, so now you no longer have to win 7 games in a row to go to the lighthouse. You can go to the lighthouse now after just getting 7 wins on a card, regardless of how many times you lost, and that's definitely going to increase the trials population, and I'm very excited about this. And the other big W in this article is that if you play solo and you match against a bigger fire team like duos or trios, you get loss protection, and that's huge. That's such a relief, but at the same time, I'm skeptical if that will even work. Because for the longest time, Bungie has claimed that there's loss protection in trials for when a teammate leaves the game, but that has never once worked for me. I've had countless times where a blueberry on my team lags out or leaves, and I don't get loss protection on my card. It has never worked a single time. So I'm skeptical if this new loss protection will work, but we'll see what happens. If it does, then this is one of the greatest things ever, because matching duos as a solo player really sucks. So this change, along with a new lighthouse system, can really help repair trials and up the population. Now, it's no secret that trials is pretty much broken beyond repair, and a lot of the population has left it, but I guarantee you that everyone who knows about these new changes will be hopping back into trials. Now, not everyone watches Destiny YouTube content, and not everyone reads Bungie articles, so not every player will know about these changes, but for those that do, they'll definitely be hopping into trials for sure. But I just have one question about the new trial system that wasn't answered in the article, and if anyone knows, please let me know. So you know how if you go flawless, you hold onto your 7-win card, and any additional wins give you a chance of getting more adept drops, like the way of farming adepts? Well, after the changes, what's going to happen if you reach the lighthouse but it wasn't flawless? Are you still going to be able to farm adepts for additional wins on a 7-win card, or does the card have to be flawless? That's what I want to know. But anyways, I'm excited for the new reworks to trials, but not as much for competitive, because I still genuinely feel that losing in comp should not make you lose rank. I think that's just BS, but the trials changes are awesome, so let me know how you feel about them in the comments. Now it's finally time to end the video before my voice dies on me. I've been talking so much. So as always, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to hit the like button and possibly subscribe if you are new. Would love to have you here for more content on the way, especially Heresy content coming up soon. Gonna go crazy when that comes out. And as always, be sure to check out our sponsor, Advanced GG, code Maven at checkout for 10% off your order, link down below, and I will catch you in the next video. See you later.